For 3 years, I worked hard every single day. I gave my job everything I had, hoping my boss would see my effort. I asked for a raise, something I deserved, but he always said the same thing. Next time, or we'll fix it soon. Those words never meant anything. Soon never happened. It hurt. My boss kept getting richer while I stayed stuck. I worked longer hours, but my paycheck didn't grow. Bills kept piling up, and I struggled to pay for basic things like rent and food. Still, I kept going, believing things would get better. My boss acted like he cared. He'd smile and say he wanted the best for me, but I started to see the truth. He was in charge, and I was just doing all the work for him. He didn't care about me. I waited patiently, hoping he'd keep his promises. One day, it all started to feel new. I found out he'd been lying to me the whole time. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't just about the job now. It was about standing up for myself and taking back control. My name is Nathan Hayes, 32, a hardworking employee who spent 3 years tirelessly giving his all to a company that never appreciated his effort until he decided to take control of his own future. For 60 months, I kept asking for a raise. I came in early, stayed late, and did everything I could to show him I deserved more. But no matter how hard I worked or how much I gave, it was never enough. It never made a difference. It always felt like I was invisible, like I was doing all of this work, but no one noticed. And every time I asked for a raise, he would say, "Next quarter, we'll make adjustments. You're doing great. Just a little longer, okay?" At first, I believed him. I thought that maybe if I just kept showing him how hard I was working, he would see my value. But after a while, I started to realize the truth. It was always the same promises, over and over, without any real change. No raise, no recognition, just more work piled on top of what I already had. It was like I was trapped in this cycle, always giving my best, but getting nothing in return. Each time he told me to wait, I felt smaller, weaker, like I was begging for something that should have been mine. But I kept holding on. I kept waiting, thinking that things would get better. Maybe next time. Maybe the next quarter. I remember my first review. I had been working for him for about a year by then. It was my chance to finally prove myself, to show him that I was ready for more. I had stayed late countless nights, worked weekends, and even took on projects that weren't even part of my job. I did everything I could to make sure he saw my effort. So, when the review came, I was nervous, yes, but also hopeful. I wanted this. I needed this. He sat across from me, smiling, nodding at my work. "You're doing excellent," he said. "Really great job." I felt a spark of pride at the praise. Maybe this was it. Maybe I was finally going to get what I deserved. But then came the letdown. "We'll talk soon," he said, giving me a quick handshake. That was it. No raise. No bonus. Just empty words. And I remember walking out of that room feeling so small. I kept telling myself that I had to be patient, that things would change soon. But deep down, I knew. I knew I had been played. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. Every day, I watched the others. My colleagues, the ones who seemed to get everything they asked for. The raises, the recognition, the praise. They would get promotions, they'd get bigger projects, and they'd get noticed. And there I was, always the same. No raises, no praise, no recognition. Every time I saw someone else get rewarded, I couldn't help but wonder what I was doing wrong. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I wasn't working hard enough. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this job. I would tell myself that I just needed to keep pushing, that things would get better. But after a while, I started to feel like I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. I had been at this company for so long, working as hard as I could. And yet, every time I asked for something, the answer was always the same. Just a little longer. It wasn't just the raises. It was everything. The longer I stayed, the more I began to feel like I wasn't valued at all. I had put in the time. I had put in the effort. I had made sacrifices. I had missed family events, stayed up late working on projects that weren't even part of my job, and yet, nothing ever changed. I remember one day, I was sitting in the break room, having a cup of coffee, when one of my colleagues, Lisa, came in. She looked happy, excited even, and she told me about her recent promotion. She was getting a raise, a big one. She had been with the company for less time than I had, and yet, she was getting rewarded. I smiled for her, of course. I was happy for her, but inside it hurt. It hurt so much. I thought about the promise my boss had made me, how he had told me things would get better, how I had worked so hard to get noticed. But here I was, still stuck, still waiting. It was like I was invisible to him. And the worst part was, I had no idea what I was doing wrong. It was the same every day. I would go in, work hard, do everything asked of me, and leave at the end of the day feeling like I hadn't made any progress. My boss was always so busy with his own work, never noticing the effort I put in. I was just one of many employees to him, a face in the crowd. And the worst part? I had been expecting too much. I had been expecting to be seen, to be rewarded, to be valued. But that wasn't how it worked in this company. Sometimes, when I stayed late in the office, I would look out the window at the dark sky, feeling a sense of hopelessness settle over me. The world outside seemed so big, so full of possibilities, but inside that office, I felt like I was stuck in a cage. There were times I would sit at my desk, staring at the computer screen, wondering if this was all I was ever going to be. A worker, stuck in a cycle of empty promises, waiting for a change that would never come. I would tell myself that I just had to hang on a little longer. But how much longer could I take it? One night, after another long day, I finally decided to send the email. It wasn't easy. I had to work up the courage to ask. But I had to know. I had to ask for what I deserved. I wrote the email, poured all my frustrations and hopes into it, asking for a raise. It wasn't the first time, but this time, I meant it. I was tired of waiting. I was tired of hoping. I was ready to stand up for myself. The next day, I sent it. The email sat in my inbox, and I stared at it for a long time, wondering what would happen next. Would he ignore it, like he always did? Would he tell me to wait? Or would he finally give me the answer I had been waiting for? But there was no answer, no response. And that, right there, was when I knew. I had already known deep down, but this time, I couldn't ignore it anymore. He wasn't going to give me what I deserved. He wasn't going to acknowledge my hard work. Right then, I realized something that made everything different. I realized I was just another employee to him. I wasn't important. I wasn't special. I was just a worker, a tool to help him make money. And that's when it hit me. If I wanted to change my life, I had to do it myself. No one was going to hand me what I wanted. If I wanted to move up, if I wanted to earn what I deserved, I had to go out and get it myself. So I started looking for other jobs. I started applying for positions that paid what I was worth. I started looking for a place where I would be valued. But little did I know, that decision would lead to something I never expected. I had reached my breaking point. I had been patient for so long. I had done everything that was asked of me, worked as hard as I could, and kept my head down. I had been loyal to him, believing that one day, my hard work would be recognized. But nothing changed. Nothing ever did. Loyalty doesn't pay bills. It doesn't pay for the car I wanted or the house I dreamed of. It doesn't secure the future I wanted for myself and my family. I realized that as much as I gave, I wasn't getting anything in return. No raise, no promotion, just more work, more pressure, and more empty promises. And the worst part was, I couldn't even see the end of it. So, I started looking for another job. Quietly, discreetly. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to risk my current job. I didn't want him to think that I was unhappy or planning to leave. I just wanted to explore my options, to find something better, something that would give me what I deserved. It wasn't easy. I had to be careful. I didn't want anyone to see my applications or hear about the interviews I was going to. So, I kept it all to myself. Every night after work, I would sit at my computer, apply for new jobs, and hope that something would come through. I had to do it. I was barely making it through each month, struggling to pay bills and keep up with my expenses. I couldn't keep living like this. I needed a change. I needed more than what I was getting from that company. The more I searched, the more opportunities one found. Jobs that paid better, jobs that appreciated hard work, jobs that would allow me to finally start living the life I had been dreaming of. It felt like a weight was slowly being lifted off my shoulders. I could see a way out, and it was closer than I ever thought. But, of course, things don't always go the way you plan. I should have known better. You can never hide anything for long in a small office. Somehow he found out. He didn't ask me directly, but I could see it in his eyes when he walked into my office that day. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. One afternoon, in the middle of a meeting, he casually dropped the bomb on me. "I know you've been looking for another job," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it hit me like a punch in the stomach. It felt like the whole room suddenly went silent. The words echoed in my mind. How did he know? How could he possibly know? I hadn't told anyone. I had been so careful. I tried to stay calm. I tried to act like it didn't matter. But inside, my heart was racing. I could feel my face turn red, my palms sweating. I was caught off guard. The whole time, I had thought I was being smart. I had been careful. I hadn't let anything slip. I hadn't told anyone about the interviews or the job applications. I had done everything in my power to keep it a secret. And yet, somehow he knew. How? Why? The answer came quickly, and I didn't want to hear it. His voice was calm, but there was something cold about it. I can't have someone working for me who's looking for another job behind my back. He said, the words like ice. You're fired. Effective immediately. It was like the world had stopped. I couldn't believe it. I had never seen it coming. I had always been loyal to him. I had always worked hard. And now, just like that, I was fired. For job hunting. For trying to better my life. For trying to get what I deserved. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond. It was like everything had just been taken from me in an instant. I felt betrayed. I felt humiliated. I had trusted him. I had believed in him. And now, I was left with nothing. He didn't even look sorry. He didn't apologize. He didn't care. He just sat there, behind his desk, staring at me like I was some kind of failure. He had already made up his mind. There was no second chance. No chance to explain myself. It didn't even matter that I had been looking for a job because I wasn't happy. It didn't matter that I had been struggling, working my fingers to the bone, hoping for a chance to get ahead. All that mattered to him was that I had looked for something else. Something better. And for that, he decided I had to go. I didn't argue. I didn't try to explain myself. There was no point. I had no chance to fight back. The decision was made. I sat there for a moment, just staring at the desk. The reality of what had just happened slowly started to sink in. I had been fired. It was over. I gathered my things in silence. My mind was racing, but my body felt numb. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Disappointment? Sadness? I couldn't figure it out. All I knew was that I had given everything I had to this job, and it hadn't been enough. I grabbed my bag, shoved my personal items inside, and walked out of the office. The doors closed behind me with a finality I had never expected. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done. Done with him. Done with that company. And done with the lies. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. As I stepped out into the sunlight, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in a long time, I was free. Free from the stress, free from the lies, free from the constant feeling of being stuck. I didn't know what was next, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control. I wasn't tied to a job that didn't value me. I wasn't trapped in a place that didn't appreciate my hard work. It was a strange feeling, but I knew deep down that this was the beginning of something new, something better. So that was it. He thought he had won. He thought he had control, but he didn't realize something. He didn't realize that by firing me, he had set me free. And now, I was going to show him that I didn't need him. I didn't need that job. I was going to find my own way. And this time, I wasn't going to stop until I got what I deserved. It was over. Just like that. 3 years. 3 long years of hard work, endless hours, giving everything I had to this job. And for what? For nothing. For wanting to be treated fairly? For wanting to be seen and respected? Now it was all gone. All of it. The hard work, the sacrifices, the late nights, the weekends spent in the office. Gone. It felt like a part of me was being ripped away, and yet, deep down, I knew it was what I needed. But that didn't make it any easier. As I stood there, packing up my things, I couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. It didn't feel real. How could everything change so quickly? Just yesterday, I was working at my desk, doing my job, thinking that maybe, just maybe, I would finally get the recognition I deserved. And now, here I was, packing up my desk, preparing to leave for good. My hands shook as I picked up the few personal items that I had kept around my office. A picture frame with a photo of my family, a few books I had brought in for breaks, a mug that I had gotten as a gift. All of it felt so small now, so insignificant compared to the years I had spent there. It hit me then, the full weight of everything. For so long, I had felt like the walls were closing in on me. The office had felt like a prison, a place where I was trapped, stuck in a cycle of hope and disappointment. But now, as I stood there, I realized that it wasn't the office that had held me captive. It was me. I had allowed myself to stay. I had let fear and doubt keep me from leaving. I had stayed because I thought I had no other choice. But now, I knew that I did have a choice. I had been stuck, but now I was free. I walked out of the building, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light. The weight of the last 3 years seemed to fade away with every step I took. The doors to the office closed behind me with a soft thud, but I didn't feel sad or angry. I felt nothing. In fact, it felt like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. As I walked down the street, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. The world outside the office felt so much bigger, so much more open. I had spent so long in that little bubble, surrounded by the same four walls, staring at the same faces. But now, everything felt different. The sun felt warmer on my skin, and the air felt fresher. It was like I could finally breathe again. I had spent so many years trying to please someone who didn't care. I had sacrificed so much for a job that never appreciated me. But now, I was free from that. I was free to make my own decisions, to take control of my own future. I didn't feel angry, not anymore. At first, I thought I would be upset. I thought I would be furious with him. But the truth was, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that his betrayal had been a blessing in disguise. He had done me a favor, whether he knew it or not. As I walked away from that office, I left behind everything. The stress, the pressure, the disappointment. But I also left behind the fear. The fear that had kept me in that job for so long. The fear that told me I couldn't leave, that I had no other options. That fear was gone. I had found my strength. I had found my courage. And now, I was ready to move on. I was ready to take control of my life. I didn't need him. I didn't need that job. I didn't need any of it. All I needed was myself. I spent the next few days searching for new opportunities. I was no longer afraid. I was no longer worried about whether I would be able to make it. I knew I could. I knew that I was capable of much more than I had been given credit for. And the best part? I wasn't just looking for any job anymore. I was looking for the right job. I was looking for a place that would respect me, a place where I would be valued for the work I did. I wasn't going to settle for less anymore. I wasn't going to stay in a job that made me feel small. I had been working on my resume, polishing up my LinkedIn profile, and applying to jobs that paid well, that offered benefits, and that recognized hard work. It felt good. It felt like I was finally doing something for myself. The first interview I had after leaving my old job was with a company that seemed perfect. The manager was friendly, welcoming, and genuinely interested in my experience. It was everything I had wanted. They offered me a position on the spot, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally where I belonged. The job wasn't just a paycheck. It was a place where I could grow, where I could build something for myself. It was a place that appreciated me for who I was, not just for what I could do for them. I didn't know it at the time, but getting fired from my old job had been the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to look at my life in a new way. It made me realize that I was capable of so much more than I had been giving myself credit for. And it made me see that I didn't have to settle for anything less than I deserved. Now, I was building my own future. I was in control. And nothing, not even the past, could take that away from me. It didn't take long for me to feel at home in this new job. From the moment I walked in, I could tell it was different. The atmosphere was welcoming, the people were friendly, and the office itself felt comfortable, like a place where I could truly be myself. It wasn't just the physical space that made me feel welcome, it was the respect. The company didn't treat me like just another employee. They saw my worth right away. I didn't have to prove myself over and over again like I did at my old job. It was clear from the start that they appreciated the skills and experience I brought to the table. And, best of all, they paid me what I deserved. No more empty promises. No more being undervalued. Just real recognition for real work. It felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I didn't have to worry about being ignored or taken advantage of anymore. For the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. The frustration, the doubt, the endless cycle of disappointment, those invisible chains that had held me back for so long, were gone. They didn't have a hold on me anymore. I was free to do my best work, and I was finally getting what I deserved in return. As I settled into my new job, something inside me began to change. I wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore. I was working because I knew I was valued, because I knew my hard work meant something. I looked back at my old job, at the man who had fired me, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. He had been my boss for years. I had given him everything. I had worked harder than I thought was possible. And yet, he had turned his back on me when I needed him most. He had made me feel small, like I wasn't enough. But now, as I looked at my new workplace and the way they treated me, I realized something. He had never seen my true value. He had never truly respected me. But here's the twist. He didn't expect me to succeed without him. He didn't expect me to rise after being crushed beneath his lies and his broken promises. I had been stuck in that job for so long, feeling like I had no choice but to stay. But once I left, once I took that leap, I realized just how much potential I had been holding back. I've seen the emails, the texts from his assistant. They were trying to reach out to me. He had heard that I was doing well in my new job, and he didn't like it. He tried to lure me back, offering me more money. He promised things would be different. He said he was sorry for how things went. But I didn't want his apology. I didn't need his promises. It was too late. His betrayal had cut too deep. The trust was gone. I had already moved on. I had already found something better, something that respected me for who I was and what I could offer. No amount of money could make up for the way he had treated me. No matter how much he tried to make it right, it wasn't enough. At first, I was tempted. I won't lie. I thought about the offer. I wondered if it was the right decision to walk away from the comfort of what I knew. But then I remembered everything. The broken promises, the constant disappointment, the way I had been made to feel small, like I was nothing more than a tool to help him succeed. And in that moment, I realized I had made the right choice. I wasn't going to go back. I wasn't going to let him pull me back into that world of lies and manipulation. I had finally found a place where I could grow, where I could truly thrive. And nothing, no amount of money, no empty apology, could take that away from me. Things had changed. I had changed. I was no longer that person who would quietly sit back and accept what was given to me. I was no longer the person who was afraid to ask for what I deserved. In this new job, I was confident. I was respected. And I was determined to keep moving forward, no matter what. Every day, I woke up excited to go to work. It wasn't just because I was getting paid well. It was because I felt like I was truly making a difference. The work I did mattered, and the people around me appreciated it. There was no more questioning whether I was good enough. I knew I was good enough. And so did they. As I looked around at my new team, I felt proud. Proud of how far I had come, proud of the choice I had made to leave my old job, and proud of the work we were doing together. There was a sense of camaraderie here that I had never experienced before. Everyone was working toward the same goal, and everyone's efforts were recognized. It felt like a family, not just a group of coworkers. Looking back, it's hard to believe that I had ever been that person, so unsure, so afraid to make a change. It feels like a lifetime ago. But that's the thing about life. It forces you to grow, even when you don't want to. Even when you feel like you're stuck, life has a way of showing you that there's always a way out. The person I am now is not the same person who walked into that old office. I've learned my worth. I've learned that I don't have to settle for less. I don't have to stay in a job or a situation that doesn't respect me or value me. I know now that I can create my own path. I've learned that sometimes you have to walk away from the things that are holding you back in order to find something better. And when you do, when you find the courage to leave behind what's not working for you, you'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish. You'll be amazed at how much stronger you are than you ever thought possible. So, as I sit here in my new office, typing away with confidence, I know that this is just the beginning. This is just the start of something new, something bigger, something better. And nothing, not even the past, can take that away from me. Sometimes, life has a way of showing you things the hard way. It takes losing everything to understand how much you really have inside of you. It takes being pushed to the very edge, feeling like you can't go any further, before you realize how strong you are. I thought I was broken after everything that happened. I thought that maybe I was just a failure. I thought that I couldn't go on after being let down so many times. But looking back now, I see that I wasn't broken. I was pushed to a place where I had to face my fears and find my own strength. And that strength? It was always there, deep inside of me. I just had to realize it. He thought he had won. He thought that by firing me, he was taking everything away from me. He thought he had crushed me, but he didn't. I'm stronger now than I ever was before. I'm stronger because I know that I don't need anyone to define me. I don't need anyone's approval. I don't need to wait for someone to tell me that I'm good enough. I learned that day, when I walked away, that the only person who controls my fate is me. It's my choices that shape my future. It's my actions that decide where I go next. As I walked away from that job, I started to realize that this was just the beginning. It wasn't the end. The end would have been if I had stayed stuck in that toxic place, letting someone else control my life. But I didn't. I broke free. And now, I'm in control. So, if he ever finds out what I've built for myself, the success I've found, the life I've created, it will be too late for him to regret anything. He will never be able to take back what he did to me, and that's something he will have to live with. But I'm living my life now, on my terms, and nothing can change that.